This week in comic books, we're kind of winding up the whole Night Terror thing that's been going on, leading up to the big battle. And in Marvel, we get only two books from Marvel this week, and one of them's they're both stinkers. We'll just go ahead and do it. But hey, I got some coffee to sell you. Check this out. Hey, what's going on, folks? This is your boy Pocan Joe to talk to you about Coffee Brand Coffee. We serve people that are tired of gimmicky advertising and branded companies that want to lecture you. At Coffee Brand Coffee, all we want to do is serve you freshly roasted coffee wherever you're at, whenever you want it. Consider Coffee Brand Coffee. Check us out, check our reviews out, and use promo code POCANJOE or the link down in the description to save yourself some money. Give me the opportunity to get you a delicious cup of coffee. Alright, weirdos, another stack of comic books, so here we go. We're kicking it off with Action Comics number 2 for the Night Terror run. First off, these covers have been just killer. I'm loving every bit of this. This one, we get Power Girl still dealing with her existential crisis, and then having to repeat a horror of hers over and over again, which seems to be a theme in a lot of these stories, these secondary storylines. Getting stuck in the same rut and having to repeat the same things over and over again. No matter what you do, the situation doesn't change until you accept the situation. That's solid advice. That's right. You can keep banging your head up against the wall, but until you get a hammer, right, you're not getting through that wall, right? I thought that was really good. I thought it was okay, but this whole existential crisis of her being like a clone and not knowing if she's real or not, I don't know how I feel about that. I would think, that whole you think, therefore you are type of thing, right? I don't understand why that would be a big deal. But then again, I'm not a clone, so at least not that I know of. That's a good question, actually. But for the most part, it's a pretty good story. I'm enjoying that. And the secondary story in it, where we're dealing with Cyborg and all the little super kids, what's great about that story is, in this one, the big twist, right? The M. Night Shyamalan twist in this one is that this is not the nightmare of the kids, but this is actually Cyborg's nightmare, and they learn how to turn that against them and fight. And of course, across all stories, everybody's awake now. So everybody's awake in Action Comics, and they're going to go find the superheroes and do the big battle, because that's what we're leading up to, and that's where we're going. Next, we got Angel Breaker. This one takes a little bit of a different twist than the other ones. In this one, Angel Breaker and Raptor, her kind of sidekick, I guess is what we're going to teammate, whatever you want to call them. They're going to be, they're not asleep. They're in a waking world because there's a snake stone in there of some sort. I don't know why we got to have this other stone, but it's there and it's keeping everybody awake and out of the dream world that's currently happening. Super cool. So they get this snake stone thing. They give it to a kid to take to the superheroes. This kid is this cult kid. He's cult kids. Cult kids are weird. I like cults, but kids in cults are weird. So they're going to give it to him to go get to the superheroes, and then they actually fall asleep. So they're going into the nightmare world, which doesn't matter because of what happens later. You'll see. All right, next we get Detective Comics. Again, this one's kind of a standalone. You could put these two by themselves, take away the whole dream world thing, and just kind of have this as a cool comic book off to the side. First off, the art in this, I'm really digging it. Gives it a really, really creepy vibe. I've been enjoying that. But in here, Jim Gordon's still dealing with the fact that he was the mechanical Batman for a while and had to do some kind of, maybe off the book kind of stuff. Right? Like hurt people. It was kind of a big deal to him. Kind of really affected him, too. But in this one, we find out how it actually fractured his psyche. And if you read the comic book, you know what I'm talking. He's literally falling apart in this storyline. And then these three kind of wish makers, if you will, genies, if you will, are kind of in here granting these weird wishes. But it's always that thing, watch what you ask for. I thought it was really cool. One person was like, hey, I want to be rich so I can, equalize everything in Gotham, financially wise, right? The good intent was there. And then she's throwing up diamonds. And what happens if you throw up too many diamonds? You die, right? Because it just cuts you. Oh, it was bad, right? Horror-filled, right? A lot of these were a lot more horror-filled than the other ones. Next, Teen Titans. Now, you want to talk about a cover. Check this out. This was the cover to get. No doubt about it. Absolutely loved it. Thought it was great. And we find out who our mystery Titan is. We found that out. So a lot of people in my last review of Titans were I was like, who is this other person does anybody know who this is? And a lot of people thought it was Raven. So there was like two Ravens, right? The manifestation of her and then the physical form of her inside the dream world. Well, that's not the case, we find out in here. It's actually Bloodhaven Prison, which is now Teen Titan Tower. That threw me. I'm not going to lie. She's like the ghost or the essence of the place. We've seen something like this happen over in City Boy, where it's an entire city, right? This whole giving buildings and cities their own kind of personality and persona. I don't know if I like that, because I think that really kind of it's a cheap, right? Because all you're doing is basing off of either one cultural belief or one thing that happened there. So Bloodhaven Prison was a notoriously horrible prison in comic books. Torture, made inmates fight, the whole 9 yards. Teen Titans take it, make a whole tower out of it. Their new headquarters, if you will. But this was kind of the persona there, and they were inside of the building's nightmares. It's hard to review this kind of stuff sometimes, because you really got to go outside the norm when you're kind of explaining things. But I liked it. I thought it was really cool. I like the idea of taking something bad and making it into something good, especially if we can all agree on it, as a society. I like that. I like that kind of stuff. So yeah, good story. All right, I'm super happy to find out that. Oh, and her new name is going to be Joanne. I got a feeling this is going to be a running character now, right? Just kind of be around. But all the Teen Titans are awake now, and they're off to fight the battle. Catching the theme here yet? All right, next, Harley Quinn. Again, another one that took an interesting turn. So Harley Quinn does not consider herself a hero or a mainline Justice League type character, right? Because she's insane and crazy, and she shouldn't be, because she was Mrs. Super Psychiatrist, right? I get it. So she's going through here in this constant battle of avoiding a normal life or being a mainstream hero in this, to the point where they even stuck her into like an older, your more nostalgic type of older comic books from like the 40s, maybe till about the 60s, where the hero was, always in a suit and doing the good thing, right? Kind of playing with that concept and Harley Quinn fitting in it. But then we get the most smartest thing ever. You've seen these little, thought bubbles that pop up, the things that don't speak, right? They're thoughts inside the person's head, right? Very good device to narrative a story forward. In this one, we actually use them as intrusive thoughts. Now, everybody has intrusive thoughts. You've had them, I've had them. That cat over there had them. I don't know who that is. Everybody's had intrusive thoughts. You're doing something, you're in the middle of something, and then that little nagging voice of negativity that's in your voice, right? It's your voice in your head. Otherwise, if it wasn't, it would be schizophrenia, right? It would be something else. So intrusive thoughts. So what happens when you start getting a lot of these intrusive thoughts, right? A lot of self-talk, negative type stuff, right? Well, this is, I know, and I'm not going to ask for comments down below, but I'm sure a lot of people out there that suffer from constant depression or chronic depression, you probably experience this more than the average person would, right? You're not good enough. You can't do this. Nobody's going to like what you've made. Nobody's going to like what you say. Nobody's going to, why are you doing this? That constant thought to quit, or the reasoning behind your quitting. Those are intrusive thoughts as well. And then when you kind of turn them into this kind of whirlwind cycle pattern of thought, right, depression really starts setting in on people, right? That's really kind of the basis of that. So how do you get out of that stuff, right? You ignore it. That's just your brain overworking itself, and there's usually an emotional plug with it. So yeah, I thought it was smart the way this was written. My only regret to this is I think a lot of people are going to miss that little thing. That's why I felt it was important to say it, right? So just like the comic book, just like in real life, when these things kind of happen, the best thing to do is just push forward. And if nobody does, let's say the fact is nobody does like whatever it is, or whatever. Let's say your negative, intrusive thoughts are correct, whatever they are. The sun will come out tomorrow. Like, just, it's fine. You're embarrassed for a second, move on with life. Right? That's called growth, by the way. It's growth, maturity, and growth. Right? You can't be good at everything. So yeah, I thought this was really good, and that was kind of the deal in here as well. So super smart writing. Kudos to the writer for that. Yeah. All right, moving on. So the mainline story, right, into Night Terrors is, of course, the self-titled Night Terrors, right? Great cover, by the way. Really like this. Really depicts what's going on in the story. And in this one, we get finally the conclusion of what exactly happened to Insomnia to make him be this way, right? And it's the classic trope. It's such a classic trope. He hates the superheroes in Justice League because it's, they were in a battle. They were warned to leave. They ignored it, thinking that the superheroes were going to take care of everything. Building falls on his family and kills everybody. That's super sad, but not the Justice League's fault. This is always one of those things, and you see this in real life too. You can warn somebody all day long, people in Hurricane Alley or in places of high earthquakes where you can get somewhat of a warning to get out or go on, find someplace safe to be, and they choose not to, and then the worst case scenario happens to them. And boy, they're just waiting for the thing to blame on instead of living up to their own decisions. That's a rough one. Like I've experienced this myself. Made a wrong decision and people got hurt. That's a rough one, right? But you got to eat that too, right? Life's about eating the good and the bad sometimes. So yeah, I thought that was kind of a interesting take. I could see where somebody would want to blame the superheroes for it, but again, when you're told to leave an area, leave. Just go. I don't care what it is. Just head for the hills. Get underground, whatever the place is, right? Do it. But in this story, this was all done to actually trick Deadman into bringing the Nightmare Stone to him in his own mind. So now, instead of everybody being asleep, which we're all awake now, they're all awake and all the nightmares are in the real world. So whatever their nightmare was has been manifested into a physical form in reality, right? We can say the here and now, right? Okay, yeah. So now the big battle makes sense, right? Because if you got to go into dreamland to fight them, right? And you can kind of sort of jump in and out of people's dreams, but you can't really fight in a dream, but you can fight in the real world. That's a great overall message too. So as they're going to the big battle's coming. This is almost coming to a close, and I hope it is epic, and I hope it is beautiful. Let me know down below what you think it's going to be. But all in all, I've been enjoying the series. There's been some slow ones here and there, but for the most part, I've been really enjoying it. All right, next from DC. That's right, more DC. We went with the Penguin, and I got this cover because this is the one that I keep seeing everywhere to describe this. So this takes place shortly after, and I got to check my notes real quick because I read the run, and I vaguely remembered it. It was kind of weird. But this happened right after, after Killing Time. The story with Killing Time in it. Okay, with the Clockmaster guy. So this kind of picks up there, and we're kind of focusing on Penguin and where he's at. And he's like a retired mobster, right? That stereotypical, right? He owns a flower shop, got a young fiance, right? And he does everything he can not to be like aggressive towards people. He's overly nice to people, right? Kind of keeping that history behind him. But apparently Amanda Waller, who was in that storyline as well, and Agent Espinoza, who was there too, and shot in the eye, and has a problem with cussing, we find out. Like it's like a tick for her. Right? Need the Penguin for something. So they go and they haul him up and talk to him. This first issue, I would not call it the most exciting thing in the world to read, right? But my expectation of it, and I hope my spec on it, is that it's going to pick up pretty quickly. Because, it's kind of like the beast inside, right? When it's asleep, and you've tamed it or whatever, but something happens to bring that beast out. I'm kind of hoping that happens in this story, and I could see this getting violent. Just the artwork alone in it has this kind of creepy, everything's about to get violent motif to it, and I really enjoyed it. So we'll see where it goes. First issue, probably not exciting, but I would dump this after the first issue. I got a feeling it's going to spike right up for you. All right, next. So I've been screaming about Fantastic Four and how you need to get on board. Well, you can miss the annual. You can just go ahead and if you haven't picked up your books yet and you're expecting a mainline Fantastic Four story about the Fantastic Four, you are not getting that. And honestly, you're not getting that great of a story for it either. Not for what it is. Like, if it was something else, like another title someplace else, fine. But I wouldn't consider this a Fantastic Four story. So we're kind of picking up, and I picked up this cover because I was like, whatever, any cover will work. It's Fantastic Four. Apparently not. So in this one, we're still dealing with Agatha Harkness, and her whole little behind the scenes things she's been doing in the back of the comic books where she's pitting heroes together to fight because she's got this whole Darkhold thing that she's trying to relaunch again. Because apparently the old bird can't learn a lesson. So most of this is just Johnny Blaze and Johnny. Both of them are Johnny Storm. Both of them fighting it out so she can pick out which one's the better of the two to kind of formulate this little team for the Darkhold thing. There were some funny, witty moments in it, but for the most part, it was just Ghost Rider and the Human Torch fighting it out with some quibs here and there, and that's about it. Where the other stories, this is where it confused me. With the other ones, they had to use like some sort of spell, because their eyes turned purple or whatever, the chaos magic stuff. And this one, it just seemed like they just run into each other and fight, and she's just watching it from the background. And I was just like, oh, no, I'm not digging that. All right, last but not least, don't even ask me why I picked this up. I have no idea. I just wanted an extra comic book. I allot so much time to read comic books. So I'm going to fill that time in with as many comic books as I can without having to read something I've dumped or something I just don't want to read. So I tried this Unleashed #1. And I did not open this book up and take a look at the inside. I was just like, I've been seeing a lot of these covers with this character on it. I'm just going to buy it. So I read it, and not knowing that it was about the Marvel super pets or super animals. So, yeah, Lockjaw gets kidnapped in this. Some stray random dog. I want to see how many people say first appearance for a stray dog. D-Dog. D stands for dog, by the way. It's literally dog. That was meant as a joke in this. If it didn't laugh now, you probably wouldn't laugh in there. Just saying. So anyway. So the animals kind of meet up. You got falcons. Falcon? It's a bird. Whatever. And of course we get that stupid cat that's not really a cat. It's a whatever that hangs out with Captain Marvel. A Flurkin or whatever. And they're trying to find the master of one of these stray dogs, and they go and they find out that apparently he works for AIM, and apparently he's into some dark magic stuff. The woo-woo. You thought we were going to go an episode without saying woo-woo. And apparently a bunch of science woo-woo too, because he works for the evil agency AIM. Okay, fine. So they go there to find out that Lockjaw's been captured, and we got a boogaloo that we got to break down. Basically, it's just a bunch of animals that don't understand human behavior. They have to simplify it, and they all have different personalities, but they're so over the top that it's just kind of, ugh. And that's pretty much my review of that thing. Just, ugh. Not for me. But I got one of those stupid clock covers, so whatever. So that's my haul and review this week. Looks like we got done a little sooner. Hey, Evil Air projects and builds. We got the build. It's almost done. Doing something for the Veterans Creative Competition Festival thing. That should be popping out here soon. And let's see what else is going on. C3 is going to be coming up soon. Did you know about that? I'll do a promo for that and see if I can't help promote that a little bit. If you love comics and you want to support Comics Curing Cancer, I'll be sure I'll make up a promo for that and get that out to everybody. That just kind of help, of course. Other than that, I got nothing else, guys. I got to jump out of here. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.